My name is Matt Cable, and today we're going to be talking about the MM-1 saddle and elbow cutter by Buggo Systems. The MM-1 is capable of cutting pipes from 4 inches up to 16 inches in diameter. We also have an additional chuck available that will take that maximum cutting capacity up to 24 inches. The standard beds that come with the machine, there's a 6-foot bed that attaches to the front of the machine. We also have 8-foot bed extensions that can attach to the end of the bed that will allow you to work up to 50-foot long pipe if you would like. The maximum weight capacity on the machine is 1 ton. Length is not really typically an issue, but weight is, because when the chuck is changing direction, if there's too much mass, the inertia to overcome the turn can leave you with an ugly cut. So we definitely recommend not going over 1 ton of weight limit on this machine. A couple things when you go to set up the machine, the very first time that you get it, when we assemble this in the factory, it will be level and plumb to our factory floor, which is obviously different than your floor. So the first important thing you want to do when you set this machine up is you want to check and make sure that your entire bed with all your extensions is level and plumb to the machine. A couple ways you can test this. First thing would be if you get a pipe sample that you want to work with, you can set a level on top to make sure that the pipe itself is level. The headstock can be raised or lowered depending on your pipe diameter so that it fits onto the roller wheels. Each of our roller assemblies has 4 positions that you can put the rollers in, and then you can place them anywhere on the table that you need to, and there's a simple threaded bolt that screws it in place. And then you would adjust these roller assemblies depending on the diameter of your pipe. The other place you want to check your level is on the rack of the rail itself. You want to make sure that this is level the entire way down the bed. Also, when you attach additional beds onto the end of this, they attach with 2 bolts here in the rail and 4 screws into the main table itself. You want to make sure that you're level the whole way down your bed. Different people use different methods for their floor needs, depending on what their floor is like. Some people have shimmed things. A lot of customers have actually grouted the floor and bolted the table down once they're ready to put it into production so that it doesn't move once they get it set level and plumb. But that is a very important thing that you need to do when you first get the machine. The other thing that is adjustable on the beds, the outside leg has 2 screws that you can adjust the height for, and that will be on every single bed the whole way down. On the linear drive, the standard switch here is a standard or mirror mode, which means if you leave it in standard mode, the way that the pipes are cut are going to be away from the chuck, and if you do it mirror, it basically reverses the linear drive. So if you're having some cut issues, make sure that this is set to standard for the way that you're programming. The machine itself will take a 32-pitch standard machine torch. Any plasma source will work with this machine. We do prefer that you let us know which plasma source you plan on using with the machine so we can set up your contactor box properly for the right torch activation. The machine does have 2 contacts for 2 different torches. That is an option. Just depends on, again, what you're looking to do with the machine. A couple other things on your initial setup with the machine. Where the main bed attaches to the headstock unit, there are 4 adjustable screws here with nuts behind them that you can make sure that your machine is plumb the whole way down your length of pipe. Again, that is preset at the factory, but when you get it into your facility, you definitely want to double check that and make sure that it's right. The easiest way to tell if you are aligned with your machine and your headstock and your level is if you take a sample piece of pipe that you plan on cutting. Typically you want it to be as close to the length of the full bed as you can. What you would want to do is you would take the operator's pendant on the machine and you would want to rotate the pipe 360 degrees and make sure that the pipe is touching on all 4 rollers on each of these roller beds. If it is, then you are pretty well close to aligned. The other important thing you want to do when you're doing your initial setup, on your linear drive, you want to make sure that the torch is in the center of the linear drive, as close to center as possible. And you also want to make sure that it is aligned on the center of the pipe. Ideally, you want this to be completely top center. You can use a level for your plumb if you would like. But again, it's very important that you have it in the center of the pipe and in the center of the linear drive for the most accurate cuts. On the back of our machine, we have a rotary ground, so that the ground cable will not get twisted up. The other thing that's back here is our crank handles for raising and lowering the headstock. For different diameter pipes, you might need to raise or lower the headstock so that it can sit the pipe properly on the roller wheels. We have 2 different speeds. We have a fast and a slow, and it's just a simple turn crank that will raise or lower your bed, depending on your pipe diameter. As I said before, the machine comes standard with one 6-foot bed, and there are bed extensions. Depending on the length of your machine, you'll get different length of nylon track to hold your cables and a different length cable to get you down the full length of your bed. The linear drive plugs in to the top of the box, the top of the headstock, in this location. Another important test that you can run when you have multiple beds especially is if you loosen up the linear drive and declutch it so that you can move it, you want to slide this up and down your rail, especially where you bolt your rails together. You want to make sure that this slides smoothly in between the rail sections so that you get a nice smooth transfer between the rails and a nice smooth cut if you're cutting in that general area. This is the operator pendant for the machine. There's a jog. This rotates the chuck. And this moves your linear drive left and right. There's a stop button, a start button, and a reset or home position button. And then this is your speed control. This controls the speed of the rotation and the linear drive for when you're cutting with the machine. Every time that you're ready to make a cut, if you want to move the machine to where you want to start, you would press stop, and then you would jog the carriage to where you would like it to be. And then when you're ready to start your cut, you would press the reset button. This tells the machine where home is. Once you press the reset button on the operator's pendant, any direction you jog it, it will automatically go back to home when you release the direction. And then when you're ready to cut, you'd press the start button, and it'll start your cut for you. Let's talk a little bit about the headstock unit itself. The headstock has a couple different features on it. First, we have a contactor box that you plug in your plasma source with. This plugs into this Amphenol panel here on the side. The second is your operator's pendant. This one controls your linear drive and your rotational drive. There's also a speed control for the speed that you would like those to, and they will be synced together from the factory. We also have our programming pendant. This is how you input the programs into the machine. We also have a computer option available, but this is what comes standard with the machine. A couple other things on here. This is our fuse. This is our power switch, and then this is our circuit breaker. The operator's pendant plugs into this Amphenol connector here on the side, and the programming pendant plugs in on this Amphenol connector on the panel. A few preventative maintenance issues with the machine. You do want to make sure that you keep your rail free from dust and residue as much as possible. It will get dirty, obviously, with plasma cutting, but as long as you keep this pretty well cleaned out, you won't have any jamming issues with your linear drive. The other issue that you want to keep a track on is the chuck itself. It will get the cutting dust inside it, and you can just clean that out with any basic solvent and a rag pretty simply. You just don't want to let it get built up too much because it can be a real bear to clean if it goes too long without being cleaned. This is our handheld programming pendant for the MM-1. It has a series of letters and numbers on it so that you can input your dimensions that you need for your pipe cuts as well as choose different options. Letter A is so you can program a new cut. Letter B allows you to change your time delay from the time that your torch fires to the time that the torch starts to move. Letter C allows you to change your cut number. Letter D allows you to display the current cut that you're working on. The important thing to remember when you're programming through the handheld pendant, every time you're using inches, you want to multiply your number times 100. Every time you're using metric, you want to multiply your number times 10. The main thing you want to test if you're running in pipe mode or shape mode with the pendant, the easiest way to tell what mode you're currently in is if you hit D, it will say cut type number. So this tells you that you're in pipe cut mode and the type of cut that we have programmed. If you hit enter, it'll go all the way through your segments for you and tell you what your different parameters are. When you get back to a ready prompt, if you want to change the function of the machine from pipe mode to shape mode, you want to hit C and then F to change function. So you hit CF, and now it's going to say shape program. Reset OK. You can program your custom shapes in here depending on what you want to do. But today we're just going to talk about the pipe cutting side of it. So we're going to go back to pipe mode, so CF, and now it shows that we're in pipe mode. To program a basic mitre cut, you would want to do a type number 4. So the first thing you do is you would make a new shape. It's going to ask you for a type number. You'd enter type number 4. In our case, we're working with a 4.5-inch pipe. So for a miter cut, the small diameter is the pipe that you're cutting the miter on. So we would enter 450, and it's going to ask if you want cut back and angle, and you can enter through both of those if you just want to do a straight miter cut. Now you'd be ready to cut. If you want to make sure that you program this in correctly, again, you could hit D, and it will tell you cut type number 4, small diameter is 4.5. And then we'd be ready to do our cut. This cut is a straight miter cut for an end trim for our piece. You can put an angle on the miter cut, obviously, but for our purposes today, this is just a straight 90-degree miter. The second cut that we did was a saddle cut. So to make a saddle cut, you would hit A to make a new cut number, type number 1, and this time your small diameter is going to be the branch pipe that you're connecting, that you want to actually cut the saddle on. So in our case, 450. The big diameter is the pipe that you want this to join onto. In the case of our example cut, we used a 6-inch pipe, so 600, and you'd be ready to go. If you wanted to test and see what you had programmed, again, you could just hit D. It's a type 1, small diameter 4.5, and big diameter is 6. One thing that's important to remember on this, every number you input into the pendant needs to be multiplied by 100 for English and by 10 for metric. This is our finished piece after our cut is complete. We did our miter cut to trim off the piece that we were trying to obtain, and then this is our saddle cut. As you can see, it started on the chuck side of the saddle and went out towards the toes and completed the cut around. For more information on the MM-1 and any of our other products, please visit us at www.buggo.com. I'm Matt Cable. Thanks for watching.